All three of you today are building businesses which monetize users in a very different manner, and also are building really novel platforms for which there have been very limited precedents. And hence, I'm super excited to understand each of your journey as you've built them out. I think maybe we could get started one by one, and would be helpful to just get a quick overview of what you are building for the audience to get some context, and then we can go deeper into some of the questions. So I'll hand it over to you folks.
Thanks Manish यहाँ बुलाने के लिए. So I'm Rohit. We are building this short video platform called Seekho, which is of course a learning platform, but generally focused on lifelong learning, where you can learn anything that comes to your mind. What? Yeah, it's a short
really
video
short.
platform.
Thank you. My name is Prashant. I'm building something called as Shri Mandir. It's a devotional platform to help you understand what people do on the platform. Imagine today's Wednesday. Wednesday is believed to be the day of Lord Ganesha. So a user will come and open the app, pray to Lord Ganesha. There is a lot of content on the platform that he can engage on. Now, there are a lot of temples who have partnered with us, where what we realized was that these devotees want regular connects with the shrines that they've believed in. Now, let's say if he's praying, he's feeling like it, he'll say, hey, I would want to make an offering to this temple, which is about Lord Ganesha in this part of the world. He makes an offering. What he gets back is a beautiful video with his name in it. That's a way for him to seek blessings. Two, let's say if it's an important day, he can participate in the digital pujas and rituals that are happening on the platform. That's the starting. We are going in deeper to solve for more use cases in this particular category and be the holistic platform when it comes to this specific need.
Super, thank you.
I am Sanidhya. I'm building Dashtoon. Dashtoon is a AI comics platform. So basically you consume comics on your app, and any one of you can go and create comics as well using AI.
Awesome. Perfect. So I think this is helpful, sets good context. I think the first area where I would love to go deeper is just understand the business model. Like, how do you monetize? How did you decide what strategy to take? And then maybe we can post that, get more deeper into understanding audience behavior and how that has worked out. So maybe we'll start with you, Rohit. It would be helpful to understand, and today our platform largely monetizes through subscription. So it would be helpful to understand the journey towards discovering that, right? Like, how did you decide the price point? How did you even first decide that this is the right monetization model to take? And how has it worked over time?
Right. So yes, now we are monetizing mostly through subscriptions, but thanks to innovators, Bharat innovators like Ankush, we also believed that we would monetize through ads. Hence, we were a free platform for 2 years. And that was, of course, a lot of struggle, especially when you don't even have a retention or a volume as close as any of the Metas and Googles. Yeah, then it has been a very iterative journey, but what really worked for us was that we did not have a lot of capital. So we had to make money. And although we always had that inside us that, okay, yes, users are going to pay for this. It's a learning platform, right? It's learning content. People perceive it as a valuable thing. But I think because of all the factors, including, volume चाहिए, users, बहुत सारी growth चाहिए, which was actually, much widespread that time. और ये भी कि अरे user dip हो जाएंगे, फिर investors को क्या बोलेंगे. So all of those reasons, we didn't monetize, but with 1 month of runway left, you can't do much. So we monetized. We were actually able to pay the salaries of our employees through the revenue we made in that month. So that was actually the turning point for us. And then we also iterated a lot on how aggressively we can go into that journey, starting from high-priced annual subscriptions to then switching to monthly subscriptions, then also moving towards lower first month prices to kind of keep increasing conversion, where we move from somewhere close to 2% conversion to 12 to 13% conversion, which is now. So this is how we have been able to grow it. But there's also one more factor to it, where we also need to understand, and what we always focus on is the sustainability of the platform. Even if I'm able to get really good conversions and maybe the first few month retention, which is also really great, but if I am not able to deliver that value, or if I'm not able to get that high quality user, that's of course not very sustainable. And that's also not we went on to what we started, our company for. So, so yeah, that's kind of a balance that we always try to keep in our business model.
Super. And as you think about subscription today, if you could just give us some guidance around, what kind of ARPU do you see with users? What do you think? And how has that shaped up over time, right? Like, what were your initial beliefs when you started with? Where do we stand today?
Right. So the initial months were very, there were days when we thought very short term. So it was more about मैंने यूज़र को 200 रुपये में एक्वायर किया, यूज़र ने मेरे को 299 दे दिए एंड एनुअल सब्सक्रिप्शन के, अब अगले साल देखेंगे कि क्या होता है. So your ARPU basically comes out, the annual ARPU comes out to be close to 300. But as we grew, and also thanks to Elevation, we had some room to experiment. Then we moved to monthly subscriptions, where we started seeing that, okay, the CAC is dipping because the first time payment is lower. And again, thanks to UPI and AutoPay, we were also able to get renewals, and the ARPU for the annual value of user, or 1 year LTV, whatever we can call it, that increased significantly, somewhere close to 500 rupees for a user, against a CAC which was even lower now at almost 150. And then when you also try to increase the pricing, we shifted from 99 per month to 149 per month, which is now. Then the ARPU jumped even higher. Now, then comes the point where we need to stop and say that, okay, we also need to think about the long-term or the sustainability of the platform. And when do you say that, okay, I'm not going to make it 199 and I'm going to keep it at 149. All of those things comes with, all of those calculations, as Ankush also spoke about, that you predict the 6 month, or in our case 12-month LTV by CAC of our users, and even the long-term retention, and see that where to kind of stop in terms of that ARPU.
Awesome. Thanks, Rohit. Changing gears, moving to Prashant. Prashant, so would be helpful to understand a bit about your journey. I know in the initial days, we were really focused on getting as many users as possible on platform and monetizing through other avenues. But what stuck was more around phygital services and micropayments. Would love to understand how was that journey, and today, what does the business model look like?
Sure. For us, the bigger challenge was, where do we take reference from? Many of you guys might be trying for this new category, new behavior. For us, it was the same thing. When you think of devotion in a country like India, it often feels like it should be a selfless service. If you are monetizing for this particular behavior, you could become the bad guy. Also, what's a legit way of monetizing this particular user and his needs? If you think about this, right? Let's say if I go 4 years back, when you think about devotion, you could think about two things: donations and commerce. Sell agarbattis or take cut from donations. We realized both of these do not fall in the philosophy that we have of what the core user needs are, and hence we have to figure out what these core user needs are, and then eventually go and figure out how will you monetize that. Ads was always out of question, primarily because the user is coming into the platform to have that focus time and concentrate and pray. Ads are by default distractions, so that goes out of park. So then we had to think about how do we monetize. Now the first 2 years of the journey, which is 2021 early when we launched, for the next 18-20 months, we were a free content platform. And what we had was, there was this digital shrine, a lot of content, tools that people were engaging on. Now, we ran multiple kinds of experiments. And again, because we did not have the privilege of learning from other players, especially in this category. We actually had a lot of great examples of people executing in different ways. But in this category, how do we monetize? So we tried subscriptions. People, and in a category like this, content is largely commoditized. It's all over YouTube, it's all over Facebook, it's on your WhatsApp. So you can't monetize content. So we did put paywall because our retention was great, and we thought the user is loving the platform, he might pay. And we were seeing good numbers. But when you go and speak to the user, so we could have said that, hey, the conversions look good. I remember that point in time, it was 4-5% के आसपास conversion था हमारा. And if you look at that, you will say, hey, I can take it this 4-5% to 8-10-20%, 8-10-12%. It will be in a good range. But then when you talk to the user said that, hey, I'm paying because I love the platform. I'm not paying because I find value in what you are putting behind the paywall. Now that was a slap on my face. Like, what nonsense? I've built this platform for so many years, and you're saying that you will not pay for this. But then we started going deeper and understood that, hey, what is it that you would really want to pay for? And that's when the answers start coming our way. So users started saying that, hey, access is where the main problem is. And a lot of user stories came our way where they said, so I'll give you how this whole story of us monetizing started. So we also tried more things where we said that in the digital shrine, pretty much like games, took a leaf from games and said, hey, you can unlock avatars of gods, you can unlock different skins, tried all of that. Again, numbers looked good to begin with, but again, the users are like, hey, not interesting. I'm paying because you are asking me to. Then we try to understand what is it that they are paying in the offline world, which I can enable through my platform, where they might not feel that pinch or that hesitation. And those answers were two. They said that, hey, I believe in this shrine. I went there 5 years back. I'll go there once in a lifetime. I stack some money in the shrine at my home and will give it to a relative and tell him that, hey, when you go there, why don't you offer this particular thing in my family's name? And this relative said that, this user said that, hey, can you be that relative for us? And we said, this is interesting. We don't know how we'll do that. So we went to a lower tier temple. By lower tier, I would say it is historically and culturally important, but not popular. So we said, let us go and put the story out and see if people will hop onto it. People tried that. What we also went far ahead was solving for trust. Because what has been happening in this category is that people have this dire need, and if you tell them to pay for something like this, they'll pay. But they'll pay again only when they'll believe that the task that they commissioned you is accomplished. So we said, can we go too far to be able to make sure that this user believes that it was done? And for us, the way was that, hey, can we create videos where this offering is being made and maybe take names? We did that, the NPS was high, then built systems around that, was able to scale that. Today, a few months back, Shani Shignapur in Nashik is a partner temple. On Shani Jayanti, they would be getting 1.5 to 2 lakh of footfall, and they got capped out because they cannot serve more people. We roughly serve 25K people through our platform and give them access. Now you pay $1, 50 rupees, 200 rupees for this particular service. We have a platform fee. That's how we monetize. Other services, same, right? In pilgrimages and in temples, there are a lot of these rituals that happen, which is pujas essentially. We'll give you a way to participate in that. We'll make sure that you have this good digital experience where you'll get whether you can participate either in a live or you get a recorded video, and then you get a prasad box, for example. Now, these two were our primary ways of monetizing because we realized that digital access is what is broken. And we were not at that point in time attuned to do anything which is physical, for example. So that became our way to be able to build trust in users that, hey, this platform will go very, very far to solve for what our needs are. And all of that feedback we were able to pass on to temples, and they started believing that this company or this startup holds by the value of what we stand for, and we can partner deeply. So that became a playground for us to crack the most difficult supply in the world, which is the temples, I would say.
Super interesting. Thanks, Prashant. And one quick follow-up. So this is a completely new spend category, right? Like this spend is happening offline, but it's like digitally, it's a completely new good, right? So was there some amount of user education, learning that needed to be done for them to actually trust that this platform will complete for the first time? And the second follow-up, sorry, was around user monetizability, right? Like typically what kind of ARPUs do you see and what tiers of users, what types of audiences are paying this?
Sure. The first question was about the trust part.
Correct.
So a lot of people said it's too good to be true. And so it worked in a way where first set of users were essentially highly engaged users. So if you see, right, the platform has been designed in a way where there's a free content platform. Then there's a high frequency, low ticket size offering called Chadhawa. Then medium frequency, high ticket size. So essentially, there is a lot of cross-selling that keeps on happening. So a user who engages would keep on using the platform and will not nudge them. And he says that, hey, I trust this particular platform. And then that trust, the first layer of users were like, hey, I've been using this app for many, many months, a couple of years. Let me try this if they're offering this. They tried that, they liked it. They shared in there. So if you see, right, if it is Ekadashi and you are able to make an offering at some Vishnu temple in Gaya, for example, you'll be able to, what you get back is a beautiful video and a certificate which has the seal of the trust and so on. You'll share that with your family members. And then this word starts spreading out. People believe that, hey, this is something which is real. So for us, the education part was the critical one, where in a world where everyone is considered to be fraud, who is selling online around devotion, how do I trust this particular company? And hence we had to over-communicate, over-solve for this particular part. And I think that has been the journey for us. Now in terms of who is the user, now when we started, we thought that this user looks like would be a tier 3, tier 4 user. And that was my essentially a bias of living outside of my small town 10, 12 years in Bangalore, right? I thought that everyone in this town is spiritual, not devotional.
Yeah.
So the word might look like that now. But to my surprise, 35% of my paying users come from the top tier metro towns. Now, when we talk to them, they say that, hey, we do this. This is a regular practice. You're solving for a devotional load. We believe in this, and you're helping me execute all of these things. It's important for me. Of course, not everybody might not be able to relate to it, but there are those people. Roughly 20-25% of my demand comes from outside of India. So the interesting bit is about half of my users are under 35. So
that is truly counterintuitive.
Yeah, that is. And of course, right now we are actually evolving the platform to be able to make it fit the spectrum. But this spectrum in many ways is mind-boggling for us because we always thought that my user looks like this.
Yeah, fair enough. Super. Thank you, Prashant, for that insightful discussion. Sanidhya, coming over to you. Would love to understand what's our business model, and you've consciously chosen microtransactions. How has that shaped up? What are learnings, and how do you contrast it with subscription, right? Like one argument could also be to put content behind paywall and then give access. How do you contrast both of those?
Yeah, so we have selected micropayments, but I'm not against subscription. I don't know, honestly, how subscription works because my entire experience before this product was micropayments. And why we tried micropayments in the first place was we were building for India. And subscription is really tough. And I'm glad Seekho is able to do it. But when we were trying to do it, it wasn't just working out. Many reasons you can say, but typically trust right? People don't want to get into recurring payments. You don't have credit cards. Now you have it on
Yeah.
UPI.
Yeah.
So a lot of factors have improved over time. Uh, but we went deep into micropayments and we figured out like micropayment could really work and can take you a long way. So that's the reason we do it. Conversions are good in micropayments. Definitely, there is a very small commitment. You're not getting into any recurring payment. You can buy a very small ticket size to start with, right? And use the platform more and build trust. You also get whale behaviors like games, right? Where somebody has propensity to spend more they can. In subscription, you cannot. Like you consume X amount
That's
of
where
content.
it's a capped ARPU that you are
Yeah,
going
yeah.
after.
But again, the negative point is that once people realize how much they are spending, right, it hits a point where the absolute amount spent becomes quite huge, right? So we are very early. We have just did a GTM a couple of months back. But even some of our early user, we have like 6-7% of cohorts who are paying like $200 a month.
Wow.
Right. So once people realize how much they are paying, there is an absolute cap to it. And eventually, you have a much higher churn on micropayments. So yeah, end of the day, like it's only the power user that remains in micropayment. So still, it's a conscious call because you could like refund your campaigns, like you can like make revenue faster, and keep on like doing marketing because you are at a more like a experimental phase where you want to see a lot of stuff. Uh, it puts less pressure on raising more funds just to invest on performance. So yeah, that's the reason we are doing micropayments. But yeah, maybe
Fair
subscription
enough.
in future.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sanidhya, you are amongst all of us. I think you are the 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 product which has more of US versus India, I would say.
Yeah.
So would love to understand how that has shaped up, right? Like if you look at users paying for micro payments in US versus India, what are some nuances? What are some differences in their abilities?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us are here for an India story, but I think we have seen a lot of things happening, right, in last 4-5 years. But I think there's some time for the floodgates to really open, right? It could be 2 or 3 years, it could be 5 or 6. The reason for us doing US was we feel there is a unique opportunity at this point in time when there is a level playing field in terms of technology, right? I mean, I was pretty young when Facebook came or Google came, and I don't know how much awareness was there in India. Like people could build similar kind of products or the new products, at least attempt to. So we thought when we are attempting something fundamentally new from scratch, why not go for the biggest consumer market in the world? So it's ambitious. We are trying to build something. Obviously, CACs are very high, and you cannot build startups in US just based on paid marketing, uh, which everyone in India does, and it works out well. And I think there is no point also figuring out too much of organics when paid as a loop can work so well for so long, right? But when you're building for US, you have to unlearn a lot of stuff and learn new things. Uh, so yeah, I mean, revenue is more, ARPU is more, but the CACs
Yeah.
are also more,
Fair enough.
right?
Super. Guys, I think one other area I wanted to double click on was just around understanding metrics for PMF. And what do you look at internally beyond the regular CAC LTV to know that this method of making money is working for you? So maybe we could just go around the table. Would love to get your views both around what metric do you look, what absolute number does it make sense when you feel that you have hit success on that model.
Okay, so there are two parts to this answer, in my opinion. Yeah. So one thing is, of course, that you have to run a business and you have to keep growing, and the metrics for that are very, economics led. If not LTV by or CAC, I think a better metric, as Sanidhya mentioned, is probably the recovery period. You because you have to spend back into marketing. So as low the recovery period, as higher, is your leverage to keep growing. So that is one part of PMF where it's more towards market. And then another part of PMF is um, how much retention you have, and in a stable state, what kind of user base are you going to stay with? For example, Netflix is not growing a lot right now, but in terms of absolute users, they've got like a significant number of users, and whatever growth they have, of course, there's some churn, and then they grow back. So at this point, a very big concern, or rather a very big consideration, is that what is going to be that state for us? What is the total market size? How many of them am I going to convert, and then how many of them are going to retain? And that's also one pro of subscription over micropayments. Yeah, um, there's going to be a larger number of users who would probably be paying lesser, but are going to stay with you for a longer run. So M3, M6 retention, and then where do you flatten out at probably M6 or somewhere between M6 to M12? That's also a PMF metric that we measure.
Fair enough. And I also picked in our conversation conversion, which is, let's say, for any of these businesses, if you get to 8 to 12, 15% conversion, that's when you could say that you have exploited and got into a good monetizability of your audience.
Yeah, definitely, because when we are looking at the end state thing, then apart from retention, as I mentioned, it's also important that how many of my market am I going to convert? Um, and that's, of course, going to be a factor in how many of users are going to be there at my stable state. So both conversion and then, of course, retention is going to matter.
Makes sense. Super. I think one last question, and then we'll open up to the audience for questions, is would love to get each of your takes on just generally AI and its role today in your business, and where do you see it shaping up going forward, specifically either on supply or impacting user experience. Would love to get your take. Maybe Sanidhya, we can start with you.
Yeah, I'm very indexed on AI. Current journey and current state, AI is not replacing human today, maybe not next year. So yeah, we can relax till then. AI output is good, but it needs a lot of post-processing to make it great. So I think AI will disrupt the cost or something like, can a lot of Bahubali could be made? No. Uh, can a lot of average quality content be made? Yes. That's where AI stands today. When you do a POC, and I think a lot of people will be building AI apps, reaching to that 50, 60% stage is quite fast. And we get a false positive that we are being able to build everything with AI. But after that, going from 60 to 70 and 70 to 80 is a really, really tough and hard process. It's not a commodity, and not everybody can code and build it. But I think, obviously, we have jumped on the ship. It's going. Something fundamental happens, and things start moving. So, yeah, it can change a lot. Sam Altman says that, he will launch AGI next year. So we don't know. I mean, if that happens, that happens. Yeah, but yeah, at the moment, it's a huge cost advantage, huge disruptor, but with a human in the loop.
Understood. Fair enough. Prashant.
Yeah, so I think what I'm actually intrigued by is how the paradigms of information consumption is changing. So I'm from that era when you would see a list of articles and people would go and find the articles and would consume it. And then now with shorter attention spans and people losing that ability to be able to fetch information, a lot of platforms which are about information have to shape themselves up to this evolving user behavior. Now, we are sensing some of that on our platform and working towards creating something which fits this shifting behavior. Also, AI is this smart human who sits on top of all of your data and understands who is in front and talks in the same language and whatnot. So think of, we think of that, right? There's a lot that we have created. how do we interpret and pass on the information to people in a way that they would want to understand and they would want to believe in whatnot. So I think it's playing an important role. Now I'm talking about how users will engage with information. A lot of systems, processes that we have done internally are again using, so for example, on an average day, we would process 10,000 of these orders on Chadawa, where people, their names will be taken and so on. We have built a temple side app where when a Panditji takes name of people, we would map the accuracy of name based on its pronunciation and we would flag the batches and send it back. So a lot of good work that we have, which we would not have been able to do earlier, is what we're trying to do using this. So a lot of process may AI has already entered in. We are now thinking about consumer side pe how we solve for these deeper needs around information or access and so on.
Very interesting. Like, do you also have consumer needs around Q&A in terms of doing various devotional practices for which today they might be going to YouTube, Google, which could be served?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Lot to do, lot to do.
Super. And Rohit?
Yeah, so I'll double click on what Ankush mentioned. So almost everyone in this room has something which they can share with others and others can learn from. However, only a handful of us would be confident enough to face the camera and create that video or leave confidence. We won't even bother to do that. And AI can actually do that for us. And if AI can do that for us, and we can have almost everyone who knows something to be a creator on Seekho, that's the state that I'm looking at.
Super. Awesome, guys. We'll open the floor for questions.
Sanidhya, my question's for you. Since you're building in, since you're building in Gen AI, for a person who's from a non-technical background who wants to get into the Gen AI field, because I mean the future is something in Gen AI, what would be your game plan in terms of starting from scratch, from 0 to 1? That's number one. Number two, what's the advantage of being in India, a place where the cost of technology is going to be cheaper? What is the advantage Indians have in terms of that?
Okay, I'll take the second one first. The cost of technology is actually the same everywhere. So, Gen AI is completely indexed on the cost of GPU usage that you have, and those costs are universally same, so that advantage is not there. Still, India has a talent advantage where like the actual cost or the salary of talent is not so much. But then you have a disadvantage that you are like 2-3 years behind at least, like what people know in US. So it kind of like compares in a way. How do you jump into this? I mean, I don't know honestly. I mean, it's like 5 years back. How do you like start coding? I mean, you just gotta start somewhere, right? So everybody's using some of the other Gen AI products. Go backwards. Like, if you're using ChatGPT, just go backwards. Like, how is it working? What all can I learn from it? Go to Hugging Face, see there are other language models. Can you deploy it yourself? Yes, you can deploy it yourself on your laptops, some small models. Try testing on it. You just don't have to be an AI engineer or a research engineer to like do some POCs today. Right. So yeah, starting point is like whatever you're using, go backwards on that product and understand, how is it built and, what else can you do with it. Try to build a wrapper around ChatGPT, some small app. It's very easy. Honestly, you'll find YouTube videos how to do it. So yeah.
Was checking it out with a couple of colleagues in my office. Found it to be a very cool idea. And we came across a video where there was a puja being made, virtual puja being made, and Panditji was taking the name of the devotee, like who offered the puja. And one of the first reaction was कि यार ये तो AI से बनाया होगा video, है ना? So the question is that while the AI is helping a lot of brands make personalized video, for company like you who is actually making a real video, customer को लग रहा है कि यार ये AI से बना दिया होगा. So is that a real problem for you, or if yes, how are you planning to solve for it, like from a trust angle?
No, I think it's a real problem. Yeah, I mean, in the world of fakes, when you're saying that you're doing it truthfully, what are the ways in which you can do that? And if you would have used the app, you would realize that we would we're actually working on something where um, for the partner temples, we would be, if they have a website, we'll create a section where you can actually find out the ledger of all the offerings and so on. So the idea is that you have to go too far into this in a word of fakes to be able to figure out how do you solve for trust. If you also think about this, right, when you make an offering, right, you get this certificate. The earlier certificate was just your name mentioned, this is done, thank you, amazing, awesome. But now what we have done is, we have actually gone deeper and worked with temples and said, hey, can you give us your artifacts? What are those artifacts? Their logo, the name of the key trust member, their signatures, key identifier number, which you might not, be able to notice today, but they are signs of that particular trust member who puts on the certificate saying this was offered here. Now we feel that a combination of this and that will work. Now let's talk about other thing, right? Today we are a small player and we are growing. We are co-creating solutions with temples where when you visit there, you will see our branding there very prominently. Now when you will start realizing that this company is not just something in the cloud where you give a request and you get this thing offered, you'll start seeing us at the place of when these things were solved for. So essentially, some presence in the offline world, some of these artifacts, lot more detailing on that, and plus video. So we cannot over-index on the video to solve for it. So video plus that certificate plus this presence in the offline world, plus lot of good word of mouth that you can create from your happy customers, and do a lot more. See, in our category, the biggest challenge is solve for trust. And the way you can solve for trust is we are thinking about all the ways in which we can do that. Can we go and help these temples create their online presence where they talk about their stories and whatnot, and they can also talk about these services? We are trying to solve it in a way where whichever way you try to seek information, whether we are not fake, it should give you the right kind of answers.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello, I am Rahul. I have a question for Rohit, where the AI is literally changing the education space of how a person needs to learn. For myself, including everybody else in the world today, how do you feel about that disrupting the way customers and the way users are consuming and trying to learn new things?
Right. So one thing that I already mentioned, that it's going to be a lot more content, lot more learning content, because AI is going to help everyone create that. And that makes the job of someone like Seekho even more important, because we are kind of curating everything and then giving you the best thing out there. So that is one aspect to it. The other aspect is, of course, we can make learning much more interactive using AI. Currently, we have got users coming for things to learn which we don't have a video for, but then we are also trying to work on something where we can give them answers, using Gen AI, where starting with textual answer, we can even have, all the commoditized answers can be generated using AI, using anyone's face, and that's something that we can anyway do for people who are, primarily video consumers. So yeah, these are some ways which I can imagine learning is going to change.
Sorry, just a small follow-up. So are you saying that the platform is going into content creation by creating these Q&A topics? Because one of the things with ChatGPT or any other AI tool is that you can ask these questions and get that answer back. And with content creators, it's pre-recorded information that you're getting. So when you are creating these AI avatars that are creating Gen AI content, is the platform creating the content, or are you expecting the creators to do this?
Well, it depends, right? If we already have a reliable creator who has an answer, or we already have that video, that's going to be the answer to the user's question. But if we don't have it, then instead of not giving them the answer, we can probably give them an answer and then say that this is AI generated and you might want to check somewhere else as well. So yeah, those are the things. It does not depend we are creating or we are getting it created by the creator. I think what matters is that we can go as far as we can to solve the user's problem.
Awesome. I think we can take a
Hey,
couple
hey,
of last
Rohit.
ones.
Yeah, this side. A great progress on the Seekho growth. I mean, it's really great. I have one question, basically on the moat and competitor side. Basically, right now, everyone can use APIs and create anything, right? Every model's API is available. You can code apps very easily. So how do you think about moat and competition in this growing market? And second question, I have follow up on the performance marketing side. So I know, like, or maybe I could be wrong, that a lot of Seekho growth is coming from the performance marketing, but it's not the mode. I mean, anybody can have a lot of money and they can basically increase your CAC and like grow. So what do you think about the top of the funnel organic growth? Like, how do you think in long term going towards that?
Right. So I don't believe organic growth is also a mode because that can also be beaten through money. However, truly the modes are, the content creation engine, how you can create good quality content at low cost, because you can't just keep doing that because it comes, higher in your P&L. So you just can't keep doing that for the lifetime of the business. And then of course there are things like a really good recommendation engine that we have come very far on, where of course as we keep growing, the recommendations keep growing better. So these product and operational modes are much more long term, which can actually keep the competitors away. Even if we see some competitors coming in, but I'm sure we'll see them fading away as well, because what we are focused on is more sustainable long term modes than probably just some hacks.
Super. One last question, and I think we can wrap.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, my name's Sahil Sen, and I'm building a video game world to support mental well-being and connection and collaboration. I'm at a prototyping stage trying to figure out who are the different audiences and running some tests on that. I was wondering what each of your journeys have been to find your core audience. If there are any strategies you tried, how those turned out, or just your journey to your core audience.
I'll say we just started with this performance marketing to understand ourselves who might be the core audience, because yeah, I think in the last session, Ankush told you, like, don't put any filters, just put some budget, create a small marketing promo, and see what kind of users are coming to it, right? And that is where you start forming something. And I'm sure, like, you would have something in mind before building your product as well, like who it would be, and like how much does it matches of what you have imagined, and what are the first 100 users, let's say, you got, right? And then it's an iterative process, right? You go with the biggest TAM in your mind always, right? If you're building a startup, right? Like, okay, everybody's going to consume my product. But then you start finding some niches, right? That, okay, this is going to be my first user, right? That mental model of that user in your mind has to match with who is really finding value to it. And I think putting a small ad on Meta is a great way of achieving it. You get like all those numbers, all those demographics, and clear understanding.
Yeah, market, and also think about your business model before you go too far building your product.
No, I think the way you should think about this is, do you have are you trying to, let's say, see this behavior elsewhere, and we're trying to solve for it for a different, so there could be various patterns of what we're trying to achieve. Now think about this, right? Let's say you see this, it could be an example where you say that this is the audience difference. Someone has built this for the US, I'm building this for India. Or it could be a difference where you could say that this particular thing is existing in a category A, I'm building it for category B. All of these answers depend on what are the circumstances in which you're building this. In our case, we realize that we don't know what will be, what will engage the users and what will be a key hook. So we ran 4 different, we assumed that these could be 4 different hooks because in the offline world, these are higher frequency use cases in the minds of the user. So we launched 4 different apps, used performance marketing to get the users, and realized which app is generating the highest wow or recall or initial retention, and then backed that particular idea, which was backed by either user love or data. That's what our approach was.
Super. Thank you, Rohit, Prashant, Sanidhya, for taking our time. This was super insightful. And thank you everyone else for coming over and being part of our sessions today.